Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are live with Fringe, Fringe.com on X and Twitter. And Fringe is a friend of ours. We've been in a lot of spaces together, which is how we got to know each other. Fringe has kind of a really tough abduction story. I don't want to steal much of her thunder. This show is for her to tell her story. If I think just the only time I'm kind of going to interrupt is when I want to clarify something that I think the audience might need clarification on. It's when you get all the way up to here in this stuff, it's easy to use short names, shortcuts, whatever, and confuse the audience. So I try to help. Hopefully I will. And Lala, of course, and she and Fringe share some similar experiences. So Fringe, welcome.
Hey, you guys. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Lala. I'm happy to be here. And Bob, Lala, interrupt me anytime. I'm not one for monologues. I actually prefer questions. I'm to the point where I kind of feel like I'm just repeating myself. So I appreciate any questions you guys might have to keep us going.
Well, give us what you will of your biography.
So I like to start out by saying I'm just a regular person. I'm 56 years old. I've been married for 27 years. I am a grandmother. I did almost 20 years in a major metropolitan police department. So I was in law enforcement for a long time. My husband did 30 years. He did quite a bit longer than I did at the same department, and he did some other departments as well. Let's see. I don't do drugs. I'm not on medication. I'm not under the care of a psychiatrist. I'm just a regular person who's living this life of being taken out of my bed at night against my will by human and non-human entities. So that's it. This phenomenon is on both sides of my family. It runs generationally, as you guys already know. It's on my mother's side. It's on my father's side. And unfortunately, it seems to be affecting children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, etc. On both sides of the family.
I have a question really quick. I'm sorry. Are you don't say what, but are you Rh negative blood type?
I am not Rh negative blood type. So one thing about Rh negative, though, is remember it's recessive. So once I found out what was happening with me, and I talked to my mother and to other family members. Most family members are fairly reluctant, but I spoke with my mom about it. I've spoken with my biological father about it, and I found out just some history. So I have the Basque lineage. I have the Native American. I'm kind of a Heinz 57, but I have good chunks of all of those really interesting genetic profiles. So I know Basque people are largely Rh negative. So that's probably where it comes from. So we have a lot of the traits, but I'm not aware of anyone in my family who's Rh negative. So there's that. But it is recessive. So who knows where it came up.
Yeah, her dad was so into his Native American connections that he went regularly to the local Native Americans, did special ceremonies with them, go away for a couple of days in a sweat lodge. I mean, he was really into it.
We don't have that bloodline. We have the Basque and the Irish and stuff like that. But I find that interesting. I always like to ask people that have gone through things like we have, just to see if there's a link, and there is.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
So weird. Don't be sorry. Jump in anytime. It is weird because I ask the same questions when people reach out to me, and the Celtic, the Native American, and the Basque thing, and sometimes it all comes together. You'd be surprised at how many of us actually have all of it. It's kind of weird.
Right.
So that's
my weirdo is from very young. I had downloads, weird instruction, teaching me things nobody could figure out how I got taught. up to missing time as a young adult, and then nothing for a long time. And then all of junk started with 2016 and 17. And I reached out to Chris Bledsoe, and it's been nearly daily in my life since. And when we got together, holy mackerel, it exploded through the roof.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's going to turn out. So, a lot of this I'm reconstructing in hindsight, going back and figuring out where I was at what time, and speaking to my parents. And it's going to turn out that me and my husband probably had our first experience during the same year, 1972, which we did not obviously even know each other at that time. We were different ages, living in different places. But when you start going back and looking at the history that brings two people together, it can get very interesting when experiencers get together.
Yeah, I mean, so I know you haven't had a regression, and you discuss that later on when we get to it, but lots of people who do have regressions discover that they were with their partner on the craft and don't even know how they got together later. So
Yeah.
tell us about you and regressions.
So I have not been regressed. I have had one past life regression that was interesting, but I've never had a regression for any abduction memories. So what happened to me was, even though I had a lot of what I would call paranormal activity my whole life, and my very first experience with what I would refer to now as aliens, I was about 3.5 years old. And then I had some other interesting experiences and entities and all of this. I always considered it paranormal. I had a lot of experience with the shadow people, Hat Man, all that kind of stuff my whole life. But I didn't start understanding what was happening until I'm 56 right now. So this was about 2021. And again, all these paranormal experiences, but I didn't know paranormal was connected with aliens. I had no idea. I was completely clueless on that. And through some life circumstances, me and my husband had both retired and we moved away from family. And I just kind of one day thought, I was super, super religious. I was very strict in my religion, except for a brief period when I was a teenager. I didn't engage in any kind of what I would call a new age practices. But when I was in 2021, I ended up taking a remote viewing class with Lori Williams. And one of the things, and I think it was Lori Williams, I can't say this 100% for certain, but I think it was Lori Williams who said everyone needs to start writing down their dreams. It's going to help open up the connection between your right and left brain. It helps just you access your subconscious mind. And so I started doing that. And right away, even though I was a lucid dreamer my whole life, and even though I had been out of my body hundreds of times my whole life, I just didn't pay attention to that. I thought that kind of stuff was just, if you listen to the science of dreams, it's just your subconscious mind filing things away and stuff like that. And that's what I believed at that time. So I never paid any attention to my dreams. So when I started writing down my dreams, I immediately started realizing there was a theme to a lot of my dreams. And I'm flying around on spaceships. This was during the time it was fall of 2021. I was meeting children that were mine, but at the same time, not mine. It was a super awkward feeling. And at first I didn't pay a lot of attention. I didn't even know what this was. And I got to the point where I was hoping nobody ever finds this journal because it's getting weird. Right. And that process of writing down my dreams, and I also was taking the remote viewing class and I was doing some other things, I started becoming more and more conscious and lucid. And it actually takes a long time. This didn't happen overnight. So I spent about 2021 writing down some really weird dreams. I mean, I'm having bizarre medical things happening. My hormones are being tested. I'm having, there's a pregnancy theme. There's a gynecological theme, but I'm not putting it together. That goes on for about a year. And so during that year, I'm just kind of becoming more and more conscious of what's going on, I become more lucid, and I'm becoming more aware of what's happening. And I start realizing, man, some of these are not dreams. And it ends up getting to March or so of 2023, where I have full experiences just being wide awake, as awake as I am right now. There's no dreaming about it. It's 100% conscious and lucid in an environment that is not my own, and certainly not where I went to bed at night. And it is a long and involved process and a long and involved story, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it, of how I came to understand and start seeing aliens. I'm seeing demons. I'm seeing things with animal heads. I'm seeing troll creatures. I'm seeing reptilians. I mean, things are getting really wild by the time, I'd say, late fall of 2022. My life was getting really wild. And it all started with me writing down my dreams. So if you want to go down that road, start writing down your dreams and see where it takes you.
I have a question about the animals. What types of animals did you see? And did you ever see a snake at all in your dreams? Or
So more in the dream state, I had seen snakes, I had seen lizards, I had seen alligators. When I look back in my own journal and I realized what was probably going on before I realized it. Now I won't know that for sure, because I didn't start out as lucid as I ended up becoming in 2023. But there's definitely a theme there. I have written down in my journal, and it's something to the effect of, I tried to stop an alligator from abducting a child. And so there's some just very interesting things I have written down that I didn't understand at the time. So yes. And some of the other animals I've seen a bird man, a panda bear, half panda, half man, half pig head, dog head man, almost like a wolf looking man. A lot of half animal, half human type creatures. And then you're just, well, I can't say you're standard reptilian, because the reptilians I was seeing have a reddish pinkish skin to them. And then your average gray, and then hybrids and humans.
it's like the Egyptians. They have the half human, or the bird face, and then the human body. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was creepy. And again, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't even know. I know it sounds silly, but at that age, it wasn't until I found UFO Twitter. I wasn't even aware of the lore, like the Egyptians, gods, and all that kind of thing. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't put two and two together. Even when I was seeing them during my experiences, I was thinking, what in the world is this? They came off with a very demonic type of an energy. So separate from the aliens. And yeah, I just didn't put it together. It was super weird.
I have tons of questions, but you
No, please go for it.
All right.
You have all the experiences. you have everything in common with her. Go for it.
So with my dreams, even now, there's always this. Well, I should say, in my visitation dreams, there's always this one presence that's very scary to me that keeps trying to get to me. Sometimes it's just. Sometimes it wants to be inappropriate, whatever. But the point is, it would show up with either white eyes or pure black eyes, and I am trying to find out what this thing is. Have you had experiences where this is one particular being that's kind of always in the corner of your dreams?
So I have had first of all, I've seen the white milky eyes. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've seen the white milky eyes, but then separate from that, a lot of times what's happening during an abduction is you have a handler, and this is the same, you want to call it, these days it's typically a hybrid that's coming down to get you and taking you. And so for me, I normally have a figure standing off to my right side, and I'm just being guided into everything I have to do. You know, you got to walk down this hallway, you got to get up on this table, you got to go over here or go over there. So there is typically a handler. I will tell you the times I have seen the white milky eyes have been on reptilian beings. I don't know if that, you know, that doesn't mean that reptilian beings are the only ones with white milky eyes. But I have seen those. I'm not sure if that's the exact thing you're talking about.
So the reptilians are really do a lot of screen memories. Lots of them.
They do. Yep. They really do.
Okay, so we and much of the audience knows you've had lots of experiences, but there was a time when you went from these are weird dreams to, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. Can you describe that?
Yeah. So it's probably about the fall of 2022. I started getting just more and more lucid, and I just started questioning, you know, what is this? What's happening? And at the same time, I was also getting involved in, for lack of a better way to put it, New Age practices. I was engaging in energy work. I was doing energy healings. I was listening to people like Joe Dispenza. I had taken several classes like on energy healing, and I had done the remote viewing class. I had done the gateway tapes. So between late 2021 and late 2022, I had kind of gone all in on some things I had never done. So I got to my age without engaging in any of those practices, and now suddenly I was. And I do think that that's possibly why I end up becoming more and more lucid. You know, opening up the chakras, all types of different things I was engaged in that probably contributed to how lucid I was getting. In I think it was about October of 2022, I actually downloaded some kind of creature who I was later told was the lady. I actually downloaded her into my body, which I know sounds super weird and creepy. I can tell the story quickly. I'm not a great storyteller, you guys. I'm kind of just
No, please take your time.
So my stories aren't great.
We like it. Take time and give detail.
Yeah, so it's quick. Most of my stories are pretty quick because I have not been regressed. I'm just catching glimpses of what's going on. And inevitably, the more lucid I become during this time, the more I'm causing trouble. And then the more I'm pushing back, which means, and then they just completely shut me down. And so there's a really, there's almost a balance between becoming lucid and understanding what's happening and going with the program versus not going with the program. If I don't go with the program, then I just get shut off and I don't even remember what happens after that. So I'm in the shower and I was praying. I was praying in the shower. I think I told the story just a couple weeks ago. And by this time, I'm becoming increasingly concerned about what started out as dreams. And now, again, I'm starting to realize that that's not what's happening at all. There's some really wacky stuff going on. By this time, I'm very careful as to who I'm praying to. And I'm saying I'm praying to the authentic, creator of the universe, the authentic Holy Spirit. And at this time, I prayed to my authentic higher self. So I pray to my higher self. Next thing I know, I have an entity. The first thing that happens is my whole body sheds a skin, like a snake skin. It just falls off of me and I can see it. I can visually see it, but it had to have been happening in that in-between realm. I mean, I'm wide awake, but it had to have been an astral sight type of thing. I see the snake skin shed off of my body, and a beautiful, tall woman with very high cheekbones. She has almost a tiara on her head with an updo. She just comes down from above me and downloads herself into my body. And for the next at least 3 days, I can feel her in there. Now, I start convincing myself this has to be my higher self, right? I mean, I'm in the new age stuff. I'm doing all the stuff. This has to be my higher self. I became convinced of it. But at the very back of my mind, I knew the very first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, I think I just downloaded an alien into my body. So that was kind of like a little monkey on my back. I was a little bit concerned because it was so weird.
Mhm.
And for the next 3 days, at least, I could feel her looking out of my eyes. I could feel her presence, her personality, and I could feel her in there. I know it sounds crazy, but everything I say sounds crazy, so it's okay.
Not
And
here.
so,
Not here, not with
not
us.
here, not here.
Not this bunch.
So I think this was the beginning of the end for me because I now am being walked down this road. I don't know how far we're getting into this, you guys. So when I'm at this point in October of 2022, I am starting to realize what's going on. I know I'm dealing with these creatures that seem like aliens, even though I didn't have any even concept of what that was at this time still. And I know that there's a strange gynecological component going on, but I'm thinking these are our space brothers. You know, they came from other planets. I don't quite have an understanding of what's going on. But what I can tell you is the absolute furthest thing from my mind, even as a Christian at this time, was that they were demons. Never. So a lot of people take my views as of right now today, and they say, well, of course you have that view. You're a Christian. You would, of course, see it through that lens. And it's just simply not the case. So I thought they were space brothers. I had come across a Christian preacher, Ray Boucher. He was a paranormal investigator. And I heard him on a podcast called Cultish. And I thought, this man is insane. These things are not demons. They're not demonic. They have nothing to do with spirituality or any spiritual warfare. These are space brothers. These are aliens. They're from outer space. They are space brothers, whatever's going on. So in about October, November, after this thing, which I was later told it was the lady. I don't know if this is true, but that's what I was told. Downloads into my body, I start kind of getting walked down this road away from my religion, away from Christianity. I start getting walked down the road of like a Luciferianism type road. And I start realizing that they're transferring my soul out of my body. At this point, I've had no exposure to the abduction research. I don't know what's going on, but I know they're transferring my soul out of my body, which took me a long time, you guys. It took me a really long time to figure it out. I know that they're interested in the soul. I know they're trying, and I say I know, but this is just because of the environment that I'm in. This is what I'm picking up from it. That they're trying to reverse engineer the soul and that they're going to try to trap us, me, the human race. So I start figuring all this kind of stuff out. And by January, I am in full blown pushing back during my abductions. If I'm even a smidgen conscious, I'm fighting and I'm being uncooperative. And I'm saying, I do not know what you guys are, but you're not aliens from outer space. And that soul belongs to me. Thank you very much. Like, I'm not interested in whatever you're selling. And so by January, February, I've called it before. I feel like I was kind of kicked up the food chain. So I'm seeing less and less of the aliens and their hybrid human counterparts. And I'm seeing more and more entities like the animal heads I'm talking to you guys about. The animal entities, they had a very demonic feeling to them, a very malevolent feeling to them. Their energy was very different. The things that they were doing were very different. And I end up getting myself into some trouble. So I thought, you know what, bring it. Like I'm all in. If you're going to take me, I'm going to fight back and I'm going to do as well as I can do. And then, I'll see you tomorrow night. And by March or April, February, late February to March of that year of 2023, I actually had a couple of very, very negative experiences with this whole kind of side of the phenomenon. And I ended up regretting that challenge. I ended up regretting thinking, just bring it, because they ended up showing me who was boss. And I'll kind of just leave it at that for there. I don't even remember what the question was, you guys. I'm sorry.
No. It's good. It's good. So, was it violent, torture, just generically?
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. I mean,
Okay,
I think
please
I've
do.
told this story in Spaces maybe once or twice in Spaces at the most. So the one that I ended up regretting, being in that kind of challenging mode. I was kind of in that warrior challenging mode. So I ended up waking up to full 100% consciousness. I know this is hard to understand because I know it doesn't happen to most people, although there are people who remember even way more than I remember. I wake up on a metal table in a medical environment, and I can see that I am completely filleted open from my belly button down. And that includes my backside as well. So my whole body is just open. And if you can imagine what that was like, I mean, I woke up and I just went, what the F is happening? And there is a doctor at my feet. There are other medical type people surrounding the bed. And this doctor at my feet, I had seen him already multiple times. And this doctor is actually a reptilian creature. And so when I really would stare at this doctor, and I had met this doctor multiple times, and I really, really stared at him, I could watch his face kind of pixelate away. And underneath his human face was a reddish, pinkish reptilian skin. Now, again, at this point, I don't even know what reptilians are. Like, I didn't believe in reptilians or anything like that. I just know that this creature, whatever it is, has a very strange looking skin underneath, and that it's either doing a projection, or what are the other options? I don't even really know at that point. And so I see him, and he's the doctor, and he's at the foot of the bed, and he tells me, well, what, you just want me to leave you like this? Now, this was verbal language, which was very much unlike being in that telepathic environment where everything is just known. Like, I just know I have to walk down this hall, I have to get up on this bed, everything is just known. This was actual language. He used his mouth. And he says, what, do you just want me to leave you like that? And I said, well, of course not. And he starts stitching me up. And there's a couple other things in there that happen. And I end up passing out or losing consciousness after he starts stitching me up. And then the very next thing that happens that I come awake for is I'm in almost an arena type environment with seating. And this so-called doctor, who's actually a reptilian, who later, by the way, tells me his name is Baphomet, is doing a ritual. What's that?
Good grief.
Yeah. I mean, it gets wild. He is now at the floor of this arena. It's not a huge arena. Like, I'm right there within, one aisle of watching this. And he is doing a very sexual dance with a female. Now, I never saw if she was a reptilian or not. She was just a white female. She was doing a very sexual dance. And they both turn and look at me, and she leans up against him, and she takes a giant bite out of his cheek, and everything gets really bloody. But they're looking at me, like they're focused on me. And then that was the end of that. So I wake up from that. I say wake up because there's really no other way to say it. My next memory is I'm back in my bed. Now that morning, I did have some redness on my belly, and I had petechiae on both the sides of my inner thighs. And so
What's that?
this again is something that goes beyond the dream environment. So I know that there are a lot of people who think that the astral body can be used for this type of thing. And then once the astral body comes back into the physical body, it can actually leave marks. I don't know. So that was one thing that happened. When I was done with that incident, I was done. I was like, okay, this is like putting bait on my toe and swimming in the ocean. I do not need to challenge these things. I am done. Like I'm out. Because before this, I was in that warrior mindset. Well, you know what? Just bring it because I'm just going to get better. I'm raising my consciousness kind of thing. I'm getting better, at their weird little challenges that they do. And after this incident, I felt extremely violated. To wake up on the table and to have my whole insides out of my body and all the way to the back side, all the way through, open. And they later let me know how that happened. And that's going to be very difficult to explain, but you can imagine. You can use your imagination for how that happened. And they let me know that. And again, this thing tells me his name is Baphomet. So I'm feeling very violated, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I'm done. I'm out. During this period, I was actually meeting with Lori McDonald. You guys know who Lori McDonald is? She's been on Gaia a few times.
I don't.
So she does regressions. And in December of 2022, when I start realizing, man, some crazy stuff is happening to me, and I think I want to know more about what's happening. And I actually made an appointment with Lori. I think my first appointment was in December of 2022. And I fully intended to have regression, to figure out what was this incident when I was a kid, and et cetera, et cetera. So I set up appointments with her. Actually, she and my husband had appointments as well, figure out what was going on with him. And I think I had at least 15 appointments with her. I think it was maybe upwards of even 20 or 22 appointments with her, where something happened every single appointment where I never got one single minute of regression from the regressionist. Like that was what the appointment was for. I was paying her. This is not on her at all. She's a fantastic woman. She's also an abductee. And something would happen every single time. She had some really weird stuff happening on her end. I think she thought the FBI came into her office. She thought something was happening with her computer. Some weird stuff was happening. But during this time, even though I had not gotten any regression from her, which was my intention, she was kind of helping me get through some of these incidents. She was trying to help me on what to do. At one point, these reptilians had made me their queen. Like there was some crazy ritual stuff was going on. And so she was kind of walking me through some things to do to try to combat this. And so that was happening as well. And then I think within, I don't know, maybe 12 or 15 days, and I have it written down. I could look at it. I had another incident that I won't get into today because it gets very, very personal. But you can use your imagination.
Yep.
And
Especially
during
with
this
reptilians.
incident, what's that?
Especially with reptilians.
Yes. Imagine the reptilians. I still remember the day. I still remember the day that Melinda Leslie told me, well, Fringe, and she didn't call me Fringe because we met up in person. She knows my real name. She goes, what do you expect? They were reptilians.
Exactly.
Like, oh my gosh. Thanks, Melinda. I appreciate that. Thanks, Melinda, for that vote of confidence. So then something else happens. Now, during the second incident, it was a different creature. It was a different man creature, reptilian creature. But this creature was now calling me by a number. And this is when I start realizing that there's some very strange MyLabs or MK Ultra involved in what's happening at this point. This thing is calling me by the number 18. And he's going, get over here, 18. And at some point he tells me, this is how it was always going to end. And I knew in that moment that he was planning to terminate me. Now, would he have done it? Could he have done it? Was it just a threat? I don't know. But I knew with every fiber of my being in that moment that they weren't going to let me live to see another day. So by this time, I am becoming very problematic. I am not being cooperative. I'm pushing back. I had actually gotten into what I believe, because let me back up. So in this environment, they can just project anything they want into your head, right? And so
Yep.
there are things that may or may not be real. They might seem to be 100% real. They might not be. We have to understand that as real as something might be, the ability they have to project into our minds has to be taken into consideration. And so by this time, they were going out of their way to actually punish me. I mean, I was told I was being punished. And where was I going with that? Oh, I was about to say something and now I completely forgot what it was.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, so do I. So take your time.
I don't even remember where I was going with that. Maybe somebody remembers.
About how you were numbered and like
Oh,
cattle.
yeah. So I guess I was probably going to say something like, would he have actually killed me? I don't know. But what happened was he definitely wanted me to think he was going to. And so this incident, when I realized that I was going to be terminated, like this is what they at least wanted me to believe, and I believed it. I was okay. This was the final incident where I realized, whatever this is I'm messing with, like I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This thing scared me so badly that I mean, I was in tears. My husband didn't, he was, I don't even know how he's still here with me at this point, to be honest with you. He was fantastic. But it was to the point where I'm in tears and I do not ever even want to go to sleep again because I felt like I was living in a Nightmare on Elm Street type situation. I clearly remember looking around my family and thinking, all of these people, they can just go to sleep at night, but I can't, because I can go to sleep at night and wake up somewhere I do not belong at 100% consciousness. Definitely not a dream. So that happened. And then I started wearing, go ahead, Lala.
Said, I'm sorry that happened to you.
I am too, but I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. And these are the things that a lot of us don't talk about. They're stealing our children. Who knows what they're even doing with them? We don't even know. And I put out a post not too long ago when I synthesized the work of all of the abduction research. So whether we believe that they're here for our own benefit or whether we believe they're not here for our benefit, if you synthesize all of the abduction research, there are some commonalities and some things that all of the researchers can agree on. One of them, men, women, and children are being assaulted on these ships in the worst possible ways.
Yeah.
Number two, they are creating a hybrid race from our children. So what the intention is, what the outcome is, can be disputed. But those two things are things that all of the abduction researchers agree on. Those are our kids they're taking and doing who knows what with. I mean, we can get into that. We don't know.
Yeah.
So by that time, I'm completely out. Like I went from these things are space brothers to, oh man, there's demons involved here as well. Okay, go ahead and bring it, to I end up being punished so severely that I never wanted to see any of these creatures again. I was completely done. It's like, I'm out. I can't do this to myself. I had gotten to the point where they had broken me. Like, I was done mentally, emotionally, psychologically. I just said, okay, I can't do this. I can't let them get me anymore. And so what I did was I spent the next 7 months and to this minute, I spent that time trying to stop whatever this is. I slept in a helmet made of Velostat and Faraday fabric for 7 months, every single night for 7 months. And I did all kinds of different things. I did scalar waves, crystals, prayers, you name it, I did it. Now, by this time, I had found UFO Twitter. I say sometimes that finding the community saved my life because at least I found people who were talking about this.
Yeah.
So I end up getting to this point with zero exposure to the abduction research. I found UFO Twitter. I start seeing the very first story I think I ever saw was Carla Turner and Ted Rice. By the way, I've now spoken to Ted Rice, and he saw the same reptilian creatures I saw. And when he saw them, he perceived himself as being in hell itself. So I find the UFO Twitter community, I find the abduction research, and I start finding other people who are saying the exact same thing I'm saying. And that kind of saved my life. It kind of saved my sanity. I was like, whoa, wait, there's a whole bunch of people talking about this. I thought I was by myself. I thought I was all alone. So yeah, hopefully that answered whatever the question was.
Well, look, this is not about us. We're having you tell your story. Yeah, but I mean, your story and Lala's story, they're pretty close to identical. I would think she's a very protective parent. She has a hard time telling it, so I'm going to tell it. A very protective parent. She woke up in a place where she and a bunch of other people were on a table. She went out a little bit. When she woke up, she was hiding under the table, trying to keep away from them with her 2 little boys in her arms. And she's deeply traumatized by it.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine. And this is happening to so many of us. And we just, these are the things we don't talk about. We're like, okay, these things are coming to get us. Maybe it's for our own good. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think that way. I respect other people's opinions. After the absolute hell I went through, and just even hearing that story, you're making me tear up.
Yeah, me too. And I'm a sympathetic crier, so if I go ahead, we'll both go.
We don't both want to cry.
We will both go because I'm a sympathetic crier.
I got through my whole thing without crying, but tell Lala's story and I'm done. Yeah, this is what's happening on the ships, and again, it's what people don't talk about, and yeah, so I'm just here to talk about it. I'm just here to say, hey, there's some horrible things happening on the ships. And now I've met other people like Lala and like the other abductees I've spoken to who, I'll just say this, even if we look at someone like Barbara Lamb, who I think we would all agree, and this is not a pejorative statement, she's more of the love and light side, right? She's more of the belief that—
But it's denial.
That it's going to end well.
She's denial, and her Hippocratic oath is do no harm.
Well, even if we read her own book, she will admit that men, women, and children are being assaulted. I'm trying to be careful of the words I'm using. I know we're on YouTube. They're being assaulted in the worst possible way on the ships, period. Yep. And so when people say to me, but Fringe, they healed me. Well, you know what? They've healed me too. Maybe this is for our own good. They're upgrading us as a species, all this kind of stuff. You know what? I don't care. I don't care what their motives are. I don't care what they're doing with this. I care how they're going about doing it. I don't care if they have a different moral or value system than we have. I don't care if they don't understand us. I don't care if they think they're just taking us to the vet. I don't care about any of those excuses we like to come up with to make excuses for their behavior. I don't care. What I care about is how they're treating human beings. And it's no better than some humans are treating human beings, right? So that makes them, in my mind, no better than we are. They're not of a higher consciousness. They're not higher in a spiritual way. They're not more spiritually developed than we are. And so, well, that's kind of where I'm at on it. And I've now had the opportunity.
Utterly amoral and have not 1 ounce of empathy.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly seems to be the case. And I suppose, we could separate out the possibility of the non-humans not engaged in this type of behavior. Certainly they're out there. I like to hold on to the hope that there are good non-humans out there. I just don't think it's the good ones snatching us from our beds at night against our will, performing abductions, gynecological procedures, traumatizing our children, taking our children out of their beds at night. I don't care why they're doing it. It's not okay. It's not okay with me. It certainly might be okay with someone else. It might be okay with someone else that they take someone else's child out of their bed at night and take them onto a spaceship and do who knows what with them, but it's not okay with me. And so I just like to be here, to give other people who think the same way a place to be and someone to talk to. I have now talked to lots and lots of abductees who are afraid to speak about this side of what's happening. I've had people on the side of Barbara Lamb in public write to me in private and tell me what has happened to them on these ships. And they don't want to speak about it in public, and I don't blame them for that. But that's what's happening. And I love that we're even here talking about it today, because I think it's a very important topic. I see Linda.
But
here.
yeah, Linda's been through it, so she and I are talking about when she can
I love Linda.
Yeah, me too. She's we're distant cousins, by the way. So
oh, that's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. We've known since
And
both
yeah,
of us met each other in Richard Dolan's pages years ago.
Long before I was around, long before I even knew what was going on.
Yep. So, do you mind if we jump to? No, let me do one thing. What was the very last abduction to the craft experience you can recall, and when was it?
Probably this week. Oof. So it's funny. I had a really quiet period. Are we allowed to talk about the MUPA stuff while we're here?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I first ordered that MUPA device, and the first thing I got was a watch. And this was about February, I think. It's April. It's almost May, I suppose. So it was February. And I had a pretty wild February. And then I want to say it's been this month of April. The short story is the first 2 watches I got from the MUPAs, they were not working. They weren't transmitting. They were disconnecting, and they had to be sent back. So I want to say most of the month of April was very quiet up until this last week. So I definitely have a couple of entries this last week. Now, I do need to say that my period of extreme lucidity is over. Like, I haven't even gone back to 100% lucidity. I'd say the most I've gotten in the last year and a half, well, since about March, April. Well, I shouldn't say that. I like to look at my journal and say, oh yeah, well, there's that. At some point after my extremely 100% lucid experiences, I start wearing the helmet, and my lucidity starts going down. And so I'm right now in that maybe 50 to 60% zone where I'm lucid enough to know that this is a red flag. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in this medical facility. I certainly should not be undergoing a gynecological exam. Why am I watching these children? So I'm kind of back in that zone for the most part, although I do have periods of extreme lucidity still, but it's not as common as it used to be. Oh, there's the MUPAS. Okay. So I get this MUPAS device. It's not working, but I think it is working, and things are getting pretty wild.
Yeah,
I have to send that device back. You got your new one? Is that a new one today?
No, So this is the Geiger counter and gamma ray detector. So, and you also can plug a software-defined radio into it, and it'll listen for 1.6 gigahertz and a bunch of other stuff. That's
so I have the mini.
It's a very
capable
mini
as well.
I have it fully loaded, and right over here over my shoulder is Madar, and Madar does electronic compass, but it does direction and angular velocity. So it's doing a bunch of these.
Ordered the Madar.
Yeah, and you should, and it will. Every time we have something kind of weird in the sky, one or both of them are alarms.
Wow. Okay, so I have the Madar coming. So right now I have the watch. Let's see. I'll make the gyroscope go. I'm not wearing it right now, but I have the watch. And I have the mini, the one that you just showed, and I've got the Madar ordered. So it was kind of funny because I got to the point where, by the way, I only saw those.
I turned the blur off.
There we go.
Now I can see it. and this is the gamma ray and Geiger counter. And
I have that as well.
It's a little USB plug, and you take the USB plug it into the MUPAS, and there you go. Same thing with the software-defined radio. Little software, RTL SDR, plug in software-defined radio, $40-ish on Amazon, plug it in, and you got up to several gigahertz of coverage. It's really useful.
And I love it. And so I was going to answer your question, when's the last time anything happened? Well, I actually sent you, Bob. Okay, so I don't want to take up the whole thing with the MUPAS, but so I have to send 2 watches back. I get the third watch. The third watch isn't perfect. It's still disconnecting. I'm having some problems with it. However, I'm getting some very interesting responses from it. So I still have it. It's still here. I took it off, and it's just sitting right here on my desk. And that's because the incident I sent you, Bob, I sent that incident to Jim Segala and to Barbara. And he looked at it and he said that he had never seen that level of an alert before from the watch. And so the watch is giving me this X, and it says event.
You wrote for a second.
And I sent you one of the incidents, and you looked at it and said, that looks fairly legitimate. I think.
The gamma ray and the correlation with other stuff, it had multiple sensors that were going off at once. And that's what they're at. Look.
Right. And so I started thinking, oh my gosh.
Everybody, including us, can get a fuzzy video. But when you add 4 to 6 other sensors and they're all alarming, who cares if it's a fuzzy video? Now you've got something anomalous.
So that's what I was hoping for. So to try to make it short, I went from being terrified to go to sleep at night to realizing at some point I have to take this helmet off and face, whatever this is, because they didn't stop that whole time I had the helmet on. They were still getting through. And then I got to the point where I had ordered the MUPAS device, and I actually got the MUPAS device. And by this point, I'm just saying, you know what, whatever this is, I at least want some evidence. And so I ordered the MUPAS. I have the watch. I have the mini, and I have that Madar on the way with the Geiger counter. I got the Geiger counter. I've got the spectrum analyzer. I've got the whole thing. And so to answer your question, in April, I believe it was about April, and I don't know what it was. So at the end of March, my husband, I went to Deliverance during this time as well. The story gets to be too much. I go to Deliverance, and I try to handle that spiritual side of it. at the end of March, my husband ends up blessing this condo where I'm staying now. I told you at the beginning, Bob, before we went on air, that I'm staying at an Airbnb right now, but it's long term. So he does a blessing. At the same time, Heidi Hollis decides that she's going to say a prayer for me. And this happens at the same time within 2 days. Well, I end up having a period of, I'm going to say it's the 30th. I'm going to say 15 or maybe 20 days of very, very quiet, hardly any activity. And it was very strange for me. So I suddenly start realizing that something is gone that I never knew was there. And that might make sense to you guys if you've ever gone through a quiet period where I had a quiet period since at least 2021. And all of a sudden I could breathe, and I just thought, wow, that is wild.
We went
Like,
through a period like 6 months of quiet, and
Wow.
then it started picking up again.
Okay, so then I start thinking, to get back to the topic, is it the MUPAS device? Just being here, is it the MUPAS device? So I've now gone from being terrified to realizing at some point you just got to go through the door. I need to get that warrior mindset back. I have to handle my life. Like, I can't be terrified to sleep. You can't live like that.
Yeah.
As we know, abductees and experiencers can become suicidal over this
Yeah.
stuff. It
Yeah.
gets unhealthy. So I'm going to take my life back and this and that. So I get the MUPAS, and this is happening over a period of time. So I get the MUPAS. I'm like, just bring it, because I'm going to get evidence. I'm going to get at least some readouts on this stuff. I'm going to be gathering data. And sure enough, quiet. So I went from about April 1st, maybe, to, maybe this week, of being pretty quiet. So let me see. You asked me when's the last time. I'm quite certain it's going to be within a week or so, because the quiet period was over. And we ended up having some stuff happening in our little abductee group, where one of the abductees was told something to the effect of, "Oh, you think you can just mock us with your little friends? We're about to teach you a lesson," type of a thing. That just happened this last week. So in this last week, I'll find one here. I think I had two where, and I'll keep it clean for YouTube. I'm changing, which is always a red flag, because they have you change out of your clothes. It's kind of creepy. I'm changing, undergoing gynecological procedures, and one of the things I'm usually doing in that environment is watching kids. Believe it or not, there's a lot of kids involved. So that was on April 23rd. I also had a medical exam on April 28th. So I did have a quiet period. There was a period during that time where I got electrical. Have you guys had the prod? Have you had them bring out the wand and prod you with electricity? I had that happen maybe within 2 weeks or so. But I did have that really super quiet period, and I thought, okay, could this MUPAS device actually be keeping them from showing up at all, which would be fantastic. But what tends to happen, and this has just been my own experience, is no matter what we do, there might be a small adjustment period, but they figure out a way around it. And I think that's probably what's now happened, unfortunately.
I wanted to share something really quick, if that's okay with you guys. So 3 nights ago, I didn't tell him what happened, but I woke up from a really bad visitation, and I woke him up. I was so scared.
She did. Oh boy, she grabbed onto my arm and woke me right up.
So what happened in the dream, and this has never happened before, there was that usual thing that kind of stalks me in my dreams, but this time it took a hold, and I kept saying, no, I don't want to. And it took a hold of my legs and lifted me up, and I yelled for help. And when I woke up, that part of my body, my lower body, was actually up off the fucking bed. And it scared the shit out of me. I mean, this is the first time I'm talking about it, because I feel like I can talk about it, but I don't know what that was. It was just scary. So anyway. Sorry for
It
waking you
is.
up.
No,
It's
it's okay.
extremely,
You know you can.
it's extremely scary. And the things that happen, I mean, some of them are unspeakable.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who have to deal with this, like you, Lala, I mean, I know that you know how I feel when I say I'm terrified to even go to sleep at night. How it's crazy to look around and see other people and be jealous of them because they can sleep, that they can go to sleep and be safe. And by the way, what ended up happening to me is I was wearing that helmet and it got to where they were coming during the day.
Yep.
These things don't only happen at night in our sleep, in our minds, in some liminal space. Yes, some of them happen in that space. The second I close my eyes, I'm looking through my eyelids and I'm in hypnagogia. That's a fact. But these things also happen to us during the day.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
yeah.
and that's when it gets really wild because if you're not safe sleeping and you're not safe during the day, I mean, I got to the point where I was setting up a camera during the middle of the day because I was afraid of them showing up during the day. And this was during the summer of 2023. Things were really, really bad. They're not that bad anymore. But I still, to this very day, I have not taken a shower with just me in the house since 2023. I send a text message to my husband when I'm getting in the shower, and I let him know when I'm out of the shower because there's been some wild stuff that's happened in the bathroom, and we'll just leave it there. So yeah, and it's not, I don't know how I even got started down that path, but there are times, Lala, when I wonder how we're still sane.
Yeah.
Especially I have a couple of girls I talk to very regularly, and we laugh about a lot of things. We make a lot of jokes. The friggin' aliens, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and maybe we're going to try to push back or be uncooperative and all that. But the bottom line is that's to keep our sanity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a fact.
Absolutely. It is. At one point after a couple of years ago, I lost my parents and boyfriend, and then shit just ramped up paranormally and other stuff. And I lost my mind for a few days. I guess I dissociated and I was talking in my voice, but it was deeper, trying to calm myself. And I was aware of it and it scared me. I was like, I have to reel this in for my son. And so I backed away from, I don't really talk to people as much. I stay to myself, but I used humor always to get myself through something or I downplay so much. I mean, so much. And so many people go through this, and I didn't know that until I met Bob and all you guys. I mean, I thought I was nuts. I really did.
She said nuts, dreams. So I would just listen. I didn't interrupt, just listen. And when the stack of stories got that deep, I said, okay, here's all these stories. Let's go through them. And I showed her all over the internet and in books I had that every one of her stories is being shared by many people all over the world.
I would wake up with weird bruises and I wouldn't know why. And the thing is, when this would happen, whatever they did to me, they would numb me to the point where I wouldn't research this stuff. I really wouldn't talk about it. So it's just like this numbing effect. And I would just go, oh, that's weird. Why do I have that on my body? Until the day I woke up from sleeping to something. I couldn't see what it was, but it was,
It was engaged in an unpleasant activity.
I felt everything. And it blew my mind. It only lasted a couple seconds, but I'm just like, what is going on? And so I kept that to myself for 2 years until I met him. And he told me that a lot of people are sexually abused. And I just thought it was dreams, but it's not. So
it's not. And Lala, when you're able to, get up the courage to talk about it, you make it easier for other people to talk about it. So I know putting yourself out there totally sucks, but it's helpful for other people. And if you don't do it and I don't do it, it's like a ripple effect. The more people who do it, the more people who are willing to come forward. So thank
Okay,
you
I
for
want
that.
to tell everybody that the three of us are going to be in a space on X that I'm going to start at the bottom of the hour. So 24 minutes from now, we're going to start space. Tell us what else you want to tell us, Fringe, before we shut it down.
Oh, I don't know. I think we covered a lot. I think I can wrap it up by saying that I think that this is much more spiritual than we want to entertain. I ask myself, why would aliens and Space Brothers be concerned with my religion? Why would Space Brothers want to take me away from my religion? I found that very, very interesting. When I look back on everything that happened, I had to make a choice. I've made my choice. But I do think that everyone will be making a choice. I think that, as outrageous as it sounds, we are, and I think it was either Dr. Michael Hauser or Chuck Missler who said we are both the pawns and the prize in some kind of crazy cosmic war of the gods. I really think that's what this
Well,
is.
that is a very common view amongst remote viewing groups that view this stuff. Is there's a war going on and we're caught in the middle. Fringe.
And we're in it. And I think so I spent a long time by myself, not exposed to abduction research, not exposed to the remote viewing stuff, all of the themes that fly around the community. But it's interesting to find other people who are saying the same thing I'm saying. Now, that doesn't mean it's true. But that's what I think. I really think that it's a war of the gods. I think we will be choosing a side, whether we like it or not. And yeah, that probably wraps up most of it.
Thank you for coming on, and you're welcome to come on whenever you want. This was really nice. And I'll shut up, but
no, you don't have to.
Whenever
don't shut up. Don't shut up. We want to hear more.
Whenever a guest comes on, I kind of try to tiptoe my question of, well, what was your craziest experience? Because I want to hear this stuff, but nobody really wants to talk about it. So you expressing what you've been through is very validating. And like I said, I'm sorry you went through it, but you're always welcome on. It's nice to meet someone who is kind, and you didn't lose yourself through all of that. You know what I mean? And that's good. That's hopeful for other people too.
Well, she's got kids and grandkids she wants to spend time with. You got to fight through. All right, friends. Thank you.
It's happening to them too, Bob. It's happening to them too. And that's why we need the answers. We need to figure out the answers.
All right. So we're going to see you guys on X in a few minutes, Fringe.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you, Lala.
Thank you, dear
I appreciate you guys.
Yep. Take care, everybody. Good night.